I'm Catherine Despo Belmonte. I work at UNEP WCNC, leading a program of work on human rights and gender equality. In collaboration with Women for Biodiversity and the CBD Women Caucus, with funding provided by 𝗀cie𝗹𝗹𝗶, we have supported parties in the process of co-developing an indicator methodology on the national implementation of the Gender Plan of Action. This indicator is part of the monitoring framework to be discussed here and adopted at COP16. This indicator lacked a developed methodology, and with support from parties, we have contributed to the co-development of this indicator methodology. And it's important that this indicator, with this methodology, remains in the monitoring framework to link Target 23 with the implementation of the Gender Plan of Action. The Gender Plan of Action provides the objectives and the expected actions that parties are meant to lead at the national level, and through those actions they will be able to progress towards the achievement of Target 23. So this indicator serves as a measure to track progress towards Target 23, but it also serves as a tool that support parties with their planning, monitoring, and reporting on progress on the commitment to ensure the gender-responsive implementation of the GBF.
I'm 𝗀cie and I'm part of the Global Youth Biodiversity Network. So as part of Gibbon, for COP16, we have a very strong policy brief that talks about a lot of priorities as youth we want to push for in the implementation of the KM-GBF. And one of those is to have a disaggregated data on youth as well as women, IPLCs and girls. And this is very important because disaggregated data basically means having data to the most basic form, at the most basic level. Because as women and as girls, we occupy a lot of different positions in society. We wear a lot of different hats. And it's important for us to map those contributions that we make at those different levels in order to better understand our contributions to preserving nature and our biodiversity. Because the contributions that we make as a young person or as a person with a lot of life experience is different. And it's very important at this stage to understand those human values and those connections and to be able to map that and help us understand how those are helping with biodiversity conservation. So this is one of our priorities that we're trying to push for as Gibbon. This is just not about numbers. It's also about the human nature, the human angle that we can bring to these discussions. And disaggregated data kind of helps us to map these different trends and patterns, which will become very important in these conversations and in these implementation processes as we consider the KM-GBF and the values it brings to biodiversity conservation.
My name is 𝗀ecie𝗹𝗹𝗶. I am from Indonesia. I'm currently working with the working group 𝗀cie𝗹𝗹 Indonesia as the program manager, but also helping the 𝗀cie𝗹𝗹 Consortium Southeast Asia as the advocacy coordinator. Yeah, I think as we're negotiate right now in the COP16, I also wanted to highlight one of the most important thing, in the negotiation. It will be, talking about the Target 3, monitoring framework, and I just highlighted about the importance of women roles in defining the areas, which means that it's not only our territories of life, indigenous people and local community territories of life, but also in many ways, including defining the protected areas. Because in my experience working in Indonesia, there are so many designation of protected areas that is not really gender sensitive. Which means that there are so many women's, collective lands or space that should be given as a protected areas. While in the other way, they actually utilize the area for the sake of livelihood, for the sake of their needs as a woman, and because of such non-gender sensitive process. It causes exclusion of people when the territories are being declared as the protected areas. So I think women lands in defining territories, conservation areas, protected areas is really important, to actually really see how exactly the genetic resources, biodiversity, and the areas itself are designed and function for people in the area itself, especially for the women. So I do really hope that in the COP16 itself, we can be more gender sensitive, and when we're talking about each target of the GBF, especially in the target 3, as you know, 30 by 30 will really pushing all of the parties to create more protected areas, 𝗀cie𝗰𝗋, and so on and so forth. But we need to really be careful to, ensure the 𝗀PIC process, ensure the women are included in the process, so they will not longer be excluded from the territories only because, their area, being protected and preserved for the sake of the 30 by 30.
My name is Rhoda Rotino. I come from Kenya and I represent people of Pokot who are indigenous community, and I work for Pastoral Community Empowerment Program, which actually works in a women-led biodiversity restoration at 𝗀𝗃 site. And I want to say that I'm happy to be here as an indigenous woman because it has brought me into reality to target 23, which is calling us to live in harmony with the nature and especially the biodiversity at large. And for that reason, I appreciate also because it is actually giving us a chance to network, to have our aspiration heard, and even on Article 8J, we have been able to go to the meetings and give our opinions and decisions, and that makes me happy that I'm here for a cause that is going to save the world and save biodiversity for a better future. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Sunita Kwangta or Mumu. I'm currently working with current environmental and social network action. So from my perspective, I think it is very important to bring indigenous people and local community to participate and engage at COP16 because we are the indigenous people or local community, they have the knowledge and have taken the key roles to protect their natural resources. For example, our current community who live in Surrey Peace Park. So among the ongoing conflict, we need the peace. We need peace to protect our biodiversity. So thank you so much for the partner that who provide space and opportunity for us to share and engage during the COP16 because bringing the community who from the ground who take the action in the ground, their voices, their rights might need to be heard. And thank you for believing in the power of local community to be part of COP16 discussion or decision making. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Irene Arono from West Pokot, Kenya. Being in COP16, I've got a lot of experiences, a lot of ideas from all the rest of the world. And also, I've learned that women are the leaders of tomorrow. We thank biodiversity group for taking us here. And we also thank the group of the women that are here because they have given us a lot of ideas today. So the only message that I'm giving the women from all over the world is that let us come together, let us unite together, let us put our hands together so that we become the most important people that will lead the world tomorrow. Thank you.
As an indigenous woman, it is very important for me to be here at COP16 because we are indigenous people and we look after the biodiversity, yeah? And we are part of the environment, the nature. You cannot talk about biodiversity or you cannot talk about nature when there is no inclusion of indigenous people. And I believe women are natural nurturers from our homes, back in the village, from where we come from, all over the world. We women are natural nurturers. Women are mothers in households, and therefore they are also the mothers to our environment, as they're the ones who are looking for food, also to sustain their family and pass on the traditional knowledge and how to keep on keeping the family sustained and healthy. So I think it's very important to include indigenous women in such a big, high-level conference such as COP16. Also, it is important because indigenous women, they need to be part of the conversation. Most of the time, women have been neglected and they've been overlooked, and this leads to decisions made by many men in communities. I'm looking at my own community where there's decision on over-harvesting of resources, natural resources. There's high logging rates, high mining rates. There's like destruction. But when women are in conversation, they come with reforestation because they are natural nurturers. So it is important that indigenous women are part of this conversation and are part of the conference so that they know too where they lie in the level of decision making, and also what is being discussed here in COP. Also, it's important for us women to be part of this conference because women look at a perspective, a window for the whole family. It's not just on one side. It's not just about money. It's not just about their own survival, but they look at the future of their children, the family, the generation, the next generation, and the next generation to come, even the generation that is not yet here. So it's very important to include that. And there is no discussion in biodiversity. There's no discussion in nature or preserving our resources without women in the conversation. So I think that is the most important part of it. So as an indigenous woman, I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to be part of the COP16 because of that. And I have a big task that I have with me, and that is to go back home to my country, to the Solomon Islands, and also spread what I have learned here at the COP16, and also bridge that gap so that my fellow women and young girls in my community will be well aware of what's happening. They'll be well informed, and they know that they have the capacity, they have the strength, they are valuable in keeping the nature in balance. So that's the important part, and important for women to be here, especially indigenous women to be here at COP16.
My name's Lottie, and I'm working with the Karen Environmental and Social Action Network, 𝗀cie, and we work in Myanmar in 𝗀liche and Karen areas in southeast Myanmar, which is some of the most rich biodiversity in the Indo-Burma biodiversity hotspots. And I'm here at COP16, at the CBD COP16, and I think it's really important that we come to global negotiations and events like this so that we can raise awareness of the important work that indigenous communities and women indigenous communities are doing in conserving the rich biodiversity in their territories. It's specifically important to be at this COP16 because parties are negotiating very important things that are related to indigenous peoples, such as Article 8J of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which is related to traditional knowledge and concerns indigenous peoples. So it's very important that we follow these negotiations and that we work with other indigenous organizations and women's organizations to advocate for women's rights and indigenous people's rights in these processes. And overall, I think women and indigenous peoples are at the front lines of the biodiversity crisis, and they are the solutions to it. So it's really important that we push this agenda and we push for the recognition of women's rights and indigenous rights in all the spaces that we're in. We're looking forward to networking and being involved in the negotiations and events here.